What is this I feel that keeps me pinioned here on the ground? Could it be that I, while circling in the sky, would tumble down? And yesterday at dawn, I thought I saw a waterfall from snow-bedazzled peaks. Ever plunging down, eternal rush of sound from somewhere joyous as they speak. What is this I seek beyond the azure deep of the sea? Could I ever find the reasoning behind such majesty? Soar my soul so tender where the eagle flies and linger far beyond the sun. Fill my soul so hollow where the waterfalls have followed deep into the dawn.
Good morning and welcome. Welcome to everyone joining us virtually, for it is good to be together. We gather this morning as Madison Unitarian Universalists, members and friends of First Unitarian Society, James Reeb Unitarian Universalist Congregation, and Prairie Unitarian Universalist Society. We're so glad that you're able to join us this morning in this virtual community that we are creating. As Unitarian Universalists, we are called by love to nurture, to cultivate relationships, to nurture mind and spirit, and to grow justice in the world. We are doing this together in a time of physical distancing as we remember the love, compassion, and human goodness and resilience that live within and among us. We may be isolated, but we are never alone. My name is Karen Armina, and I am the minister at James Reeb Congregation. I'm joined by the worship team of Reverend Kelly Crocker, Reverend Doug Watkins, Corin Bringleson, Drew Collins, Linda Warren, Tamara Brognano, Steve Gregorius, and Daniel Carnes. This service also features members from all three Madison UU congregations, offering reflections on the theme of thresholds. Today we will be speaking aloud your joys and sorrows. If there is something you would like me to share with the gathered community, please email me by the beginning of the message for all ages at revkaren@jruuc.org. We will light candles on your behalf during our time of joys and sorrows. And after service today, we invite you to enjoy the congregation-specific gatherings offered through each of the Madison congregations. We'll give you details on those a little later in the service. FUS members, please note the parish meeting is happening today at 11:30 on Zoom, so FUS will not be holding a virtual coffee hour. And in a moment, we will be lighting our chalice. So I hope you'll find your home chalice or a candle to light, or even the UUA Worship web app, so the lights of our chalice flames are burning brightly throughout our wider community. I invite you now to take a breath and enter with me into a time of silence.
Thresholds. We cross them every day, from room to room, from outside to inside, and back again. From here to there, from anywhere to everywhere, from age to age. Each threshold offers an opportunity for change, for renewal, for transformation, from what we were and what we are to what we can be. In this hour and in this place, we cross a threshold from our day-to-day everydayness into space and time attuned to the other, to the sacred, to the holy, into an awareness of new life teeming with possibilities. How will we be renewed in this moment? How will we be changed by this time? How will we be transformed through this gathering of beloved community? Come, let us worship together. And I invite you now, as we light our chalices, to join together in the words on your screen. We light this chalice on the shorelines of life, gathered as one on thresholds unknown, surrendering to the mystery and blessing that surely awaits as we dispel fear and call forth love, light, and peace, crossing over the threshold together as one. And now I invite you to join me in the tradition of the James Reeb Unitarian Universalist congregation to join in the musical response to our chalice lighting.
May the light which is before you nurture and sustain the light within you.
And please join together now in our opening hymn, Here We Have Gathered.
our hearts.
If you happen to be up, you are welcome to find a comfortable place for the message for all ages. Before I start our story today, I want to show you something I have here in my pocket. Can you see it? I know we're really far away right now, but it's a harmonica. Who knows what a harmonica is? Have you ever heard one? Yes. Goes something like that. It's a wind instrument, and you will see several mentions of a harmonica in this book entitled The Hello Goodbye Window by Norton Juster and Chris Rashka. And it begins with a picture of a family waving to one another. The little kid seems to be going in one direction. And it starts with words that go like this. Nana and Poppy live in a big house in the middle of a town. There's a brick path that goes to the back porch. But before you get there, you pass right by the kitchen window. That is the hello goodbye window. It looks like a regular window, but it is not. The kitchen is where Nana and Poppy are most of the time. So you can climb up on the flour barrel and tap the window, then duck down and they won't know who did it. Or you can press your face against the glass and frighten them. If they're not in the kitchen, you can't do any of those things, and you have to wait until next time. If they see you first, they wave and make silly faces. Sometimes Nana peekaboos me, which always makes me laugh. So I get a lot of extra fun and hellos before I even get inside. Just look at the kitchen. It's so big. It has a table you can color on and lots of drawers to take stuff out of and play with. But you can't touch anything under the sink. You could get very sick. There are shelves full of glass jars with lots of everything in them. A step stool so I can wash my hands, and all kinds of pictures from the olden days. Nana says she even used to give me a bath in the sink when I was little. Really? Sometimes Poppy plays his harmonica for me. He can only play one song, Oh, Susanna. But he can play it a lot of different ways. He can play it slow or fast, or he can play it sitting down or standing up. He says he can even play it and drink a glass of water at the same time, but I have never seen him do that. When I stay over, we have our supper in the kitchen too. And when it's dark outside, we can look at our reflections in the window. It works just like a mirror, except it's not in the bathroom. And it looks like we're outside looking in. Poppy says, "What are you doing out there? You come right in and have your dinner." And I say, "But I'm here with you, Poppy." And he looks at me in his funny way. Just before I go up to bed, Nana turns off all the lights, and we stand by the window and say goodnight to the stars. Do you know how many stars there are? Neither do I, but she knows them all. In the morning, the first place we go back to is the kitchen, and there's the window waiting for us. You can look out and say good morning to the garden, or see if it's going to rain or be nice. And you can see if the dog next door is doing stuff in Nana's flower beds. She hates that. Sometimes Poppy says in a real loud voice, "Hello, world, what have you got for us today?" Nobody ever answers, but he doesn't care. Poppy makes breakfast. He says it's his specialty. My favorite is oatmeal with bananas and raisins that you can't see because he hides them down inside. I find them all. When I get dressed, I help Nana in the garden. It's a very nice garden, but there's a tiger who lives behind the big bush in the back, so I don't ever go there. I ride my bike, too. Not in the street, please. Or collect sticks and acorns. Not in the house, please. Or just kick my ball around. Sometimes when it's hot, Poppy chases me with the hose, and I yell, "Stop it, Poppy, stop it!" When he does, I ask him to do it again, and Nana just shakes her head. When I get tired, I come in and take my nap, and nothing happens until I get up. Then, sometimes I just sit by the hello-goodbye window and watch. Nana says it's a magic window and anybody can come along when you least expect it. Tyrannosaurus Rex, he's so extinct, so he doesn't come around much. The pizza delivery guy, pepperoni and cheese, he knows that's my favorite. The Queen of England, Nana is English, you know, so the Queen likes to come for tea. They all could come, and a lot more if they want. And if they do, I will see them first. Mommy and Daddy pick me up after work. I'm glad because I know we're going home. But it makes me sad too because I have to leave Nana and Poppy. You can be happy and sad at the same time, you know. It just happens that way sometimes. When we leave, we always stop at the window to blow kisses goodbye. When you look from the outside, Nana and Poppy's house has lots of windows, but there's only one hello goodbye window, and it's right where you need it. When I get my own house someday, I'm going to have a special hello goodbye window too. By that time, I might be a Nana myself. I don't know who the Poppy will be, but I hope he can play the harmonica. We are going to sing together now. Hymn number 4, I Brought My Spirit to the Sea.
I brought my spirit to the sea. I stood upon the shore. I gazed upon infinity. I heard the waters roar. And then there came a sense of peace. Some whisper calmed my soul. Some ancient ministry of stars had made my spirit whole. I brought my spirit to the trees that loomed against the sky. I touched each wandering careless breeze to know if God was nigh. And then I felt an inner flame that fiercely burned my tears. Upright I rose from bended knee to meet the asking years.
As part of building beloved community, we offer time this morning for sharing from our hearts through the speaking of our joys and sorrows. We hold these cares shared with us this morning. Anne S. asks us to share this prayer for our country from Alan Patton. I see only one hope for our country, and that is when white men and black men, desiring neither power nor money, but sharing only the good for their country, come together to work for it. I have one great fear in my heart, that one day when they are turned to loving, they will find we are turned to hating. Kelly Kay asks for a candle of concern for her brother and the other dozen people on his long-term care unit who recently tested positive for COVID-19. Amanda W. asks for a candle of healing for her friend David Sallow, who undergoes colon cancer surgery on Monday, June 1st, and a candle of remembrance for her brother David Werhane, who passed away 1 year ago. Dorrit B. asks for a candle to say she is feeling deep sorrow and anger over the killing of George Floyd. Gail B. asks to light a candle for George Floyd and Black Lives Matter. Devin W. would like to share a joy that he passed his dissertation defense on Thursday and a sorrow for the people killed and injured by racist violence. Jan G. asks for a candle of hope for our country, hope that love and compassion will reach the hearts of us all. And we light one final candle for all of the joys and sorrows that remain in the quiet of our hearts. I invite you to take a breath with me and let it go. And move with me now into an attitude of prayer or meditation. O Holy Spirit of life and love that arises within and between us, there is so much in our hearts and our lives. Joy and sorrow, pain and healing, courage and fear, anger and love. We are grateful first for all of the blessings we have known, for the earth and the great web of life that holds us, for the dawning of another day and the possibilities that come with it, for the people with whom we share life's journey, and for whatever measure of health we hold. And even in our gratitude, we know that there is suffering and injustice everywhere, so we pray for the comfort and aid of all those who have become sick in this pandemic, for all who have lost their livelihoods and all who are afraid, for the loved ones of all who have died. We pray for peace and compassion in all our relations. May we end the violence against our beautiful and fragile earth home and against our siblings, especially our siblings of color. Black lives are still being taken, and we pray for solace and justice for the friends and families of George Floyd, killed by police in Minneapolis this past week, of Breonna Taylor, killed by police in her home in Louisville, Kentucky in March, and of Ahmaud Arbery, killed by 2 white men in his neighborhood in South Georgia in February. May the people rising up in protest of these murders finally be heard. May the people who killed them know remorse. May we feel our own grief and rage and let it guide us to act to end the dehumanization that serves to justify personal and state violence. May we remember always that we are connected to each other in deep and unbreakable ways, and that all people deserve respect and dignity. And may we put an end to the systems that keep us fearful and divided, knowing ourselves and all of our human siblings as equal and worthy and loved. May it be so. And may we be so.
There is a balm in Gilead to make the wounded whole. There is a balm in Gilead to heal the sin-sick soul. Sometimes I feel discouraged and think my work's in vain, but then the Holy Spirit revives my soul again. There is a balm in Gilead to make the wounded whole. There is a balm in Gilead to heal the sin-sick soul. If you cannot preach like Peter, if you cannot pray like Paul, go home and tell your neighbor he died to save us all. There is a balm in Gilead to make the wounded whole. There is a balm in Gilead to heal the sin-sick soul, to heal the sin-sick soul.
Thank you, Tamara and Linda. Every day, and if we look closely enough throughout each day, we stand on the brink, outside of a door, at the very edge of transformation. And we are always in the midst of change. And as the 5th century before the Common Era philosopher Heraclitus so richly explored, In life, the only unchanging thing is change itself. But we also have learned again and again that it isn't just about the change, but rather, as William Bridges and others have explored, what is most significant often in our lives is that change brings about transformation. Judy Brown said, William Bridges says that change is one thing, but transition is something else. Getting married is a change. The birth of a child is a change. A new job is a change. The loss of a loved one is a change. Change happens in a moment, on a particular day. That's why we recall anniversaries and birthdays. But the transition from the way of life that once was to a new life, that is a transition. And a transition is something more prolonged, more internal, less visible to the outward world, and not in our control. So change is situational, and transition, on the other hand, is psychological and spiritual. Bridges reminds us it is not those events, but rather the inner orientation and self-redefinition that you have to go through in order to incorporate any of those changes into your life. Without a transition, a change is just a rearrangement of the furniture. Unless transition happens, the change won't do its work because it doesn't take. And we know that some changes motivate us to a truly revolutionary transformation. We have and we will find ourselves on the thresholds that move us towards a transformation that changes our communities, our countries, changes, we hope, the world. The last months with COVID-19 and in recent days as we continue an old and unacceptable story of horrific deaths of African Americans, it seems to be indicating that we are on the threshold of a new way of being that is still being revealed, still being written in our lives. It is crucial that we bring awareness, intention, courage, and love to this brink, to this threshold. So many lives, our lives, are on the brink of something powerful and perhaps revolutionary. So, today we explore the truth of change and the power of transformation over and over again through every phase of our life. Today's service has invited people of various generations to not so much be representatives of a 20-something or a 40-something or a 70-something, but as individuals in a certain time of their life, being themselves and exploring the power of transformation in all of its facets. Today we have the gifts of recollections and reflections offered by members of each of our three congregations. We have Carly Wilson from First Unitarian Society, who grew up at First Unitarian Society and was an active member of the Unitarian Universalist campus ministry group at UW-Madison until she graduated a year ago this month. And we have Isaac Gideon and Megan Flowers from the James Reeb Unitarian Universalist congregation. Megan Flowers grew up going to a small Baptist church in Magnolia Springs, Alabama. A few degrees and a marriage and a divorce later, Megan began wandering around a college town and a couple of cornfields and found Isaac. Finding herself in recovery, finding a community of faith dedicated to social justice, and finding a loving partner that she would marry in a town that they love has been some of the ways that Megan has found blessings along her journey. And Isaac Gideon was born in Henderson, Kentucky, and raised in the Catholic Church. And after leaving that faith at 18 and an exhausting journey, attempting to find spiritual fulfillment in sex, drugs, and rock and roll in his 20s in Urbana-Champaign, Illinois, they luckily found Miss Megan Flowers. They moved to Madison together and gratefully found James Reeb UU congregation. And now, our first set of generational reflections on thresholds.
Currently working on a vegetable farm, I've been very fortunate to, first of all, simply just be employed during this pandemic, but also to spend a lot of time outside during the past few weeks. The other day, I was bent over in the fields, planting what felt like my 1,000th potato of the day, when I sank back onto my heels, giving my knees a much-needed rest from the hours of crouching that they'd done. And I looked around, recognizing that something was different. The wind had picked up a little, the humidity and the electricity in the air had shifted, the light was changed. All of these subtle alterations alerted me to the fact that something was about to happen. The past few years of my life have been full of big changes. Periods of time with marked befores and marked afters. Thresholds. There are big ones spanning years and small ones spanning only minutes. I like thinking about them kind of like Russian stacking dolls, with bigger thresholds containing smaller thresholds within them. For me, the largest doll symbolizes the transition time that fills the enormous gap between graduating high school and moving out of your childhood home, with the picture-perfect expectation of eventually, somehow, coming out on the other side, having a career and a house and a family of my own. This whole period of time is one big threshold as I move from child to adult, dependent to independent. The next doll, a little bit smaller, becomes more specific as I focus in on a year in particular. I graduated from college last May, but will not start my graduate program until the end of this summer. So I've had a gap year to fill with new experiences and preparations for what's coming next. This period of time also feels like a threshold. I'm finished with one thing and waiting to begin another. I am in between. I'm reflecting back while also planning ahead. With this change, I will not only move across the country, but I will shift from undergraduate to graduate, from student to professional. As we zoom in on the timeline of thresholds even more, and move to an even smaller doll, I reflect on this specific time of quarantining. It's another period of waiting, if you will. We talk distinctly about life pre- and post-virus. Many people have been speculating about how business practices may change or social habits may be different as we figure out how to eventually come together as a society again. Prior to the pandemic, I lived and worked somewhere very different from where I live and what I'm doing now. As a society and as an individual, this time in quarantine has been a threshold, as we experience enduring changes and wait for even more to come. Finally, for the littlest doll, I'm going to return to the specific day from the beginning of my video, at the farm with the potatoes and the wind. The environment around me was changing. I could feel it. We were on the threshold of a storm. I really felt the increased wind that, when constant, often goes unnoticed because our bodies decide not to waste brain power on continually informing us about unchanging stimuli. I took time to appreciate how the air felt different on my skin than it had that morning when I set out to begin planting. I used this opportunity to give my body some much-needed rest that it had been craving all day. After reflecting, I realized that this heightened awareness about how I felt that present moment just before the storm is what I want to bring with me to all of the larger thresholds in my life as well. We experience thresholds every day on a number of levels. So if we constantly divide every moment and every year and every life stage into before and after, we may find ourselves too caught up in reminiscing about the past or hoping for the future to actually enjoy the threshold time itself. My goal is now to carve out time to take breaks for myself, to sit back in the dirt and look at the sky and feel the wind in my hair, to not rush the occasion past, nor try to slow time down, but just to try to enjoy the present, ever-changing moment.
What does it mean to be a people of thresholds? What does it mean that there is a snake plant bursting forth from my skull? Well, what does it mean to be a people of thresholds? When I think of the word threshold, I immediately get literal, which isn't necessarily my modus operandi, but I think of our door to the patio in the outside, our door to the foyer or the vestibule that we share with another apartment, and then of course the door to the porch, to the actual outside, El Aire Libre, and how we meticulously sprayed every doorknob months ago, and then we sort of got a little lax, and now that Wisconsin or Dane County or Madison is opening up again, how we might have to get back to that rigorous practice. And I think about how quickly my conception of the outside world changed. Sometimes, even though I love being at home, sometimes it feels like when I step outside, it used to feel like this is nature as opposed to this artifice of the house, of the shelter. This is open air. This is, trees and birds and clouds and sun and sky, and this is cleansing and purifying and healing. And then it quickly became dangerous. And so I looked at the threshold a bit more. I looked at the door and thought about what was on the other side. And last night we had friends over. It wasn't exactly planned. We were going to go for a walk out of doors, and it was storming, and we ended up sharing food on our patio. We ended up sitting on a large sectional couch, and it was very healing. We did practice some social distancing. I don't think our apartment's big enough for 6 feet proper, but it was different than it would have been otherwise. We were farther apart. We all wore masks. We didn't touch, hug. It was strange to not hug, but it was really good to be with other people in that way. And I feel that we are crossing some threshold of it's changing again, and this has helped me be prepared to approach the threshold, to look, to see with a curiosity rather than a fear, and a hope rather than a dread, and a sort of wisdom that one can approach thresholds without crossing them, and it is not necessarily foolish to near the edge if you are cautious and considerate and not stifled by fear and assuming we know what is going to happen and that it's terrible. Acknowledging that I don't know is empowering.
Yeah, thresholds to me, at least for most of my life, literally, metaphorically, were walking through them because they were there, not thinking about them too much, or avoiding them, or waiting to be invited, or wondering if I was going to be invited, or, a denial that they were for me. And it's been interesting through my various thresholds of my life, having denied, that I have a place to stand at the threshold and that I can just be there and just ask and invite, and, whether that's myself or others is a becoming for me, a new thing for me. And I feel like living in these times where, being in the context of a global pandemic, a global economic collapse, I'm like, yes, here are the things in which we can see the threshold of all these toxic relationships coming to form into, a point, and that we can, a threshold, and that we can, decide individually as a community to cross it or not, or that there are other, individual points in which we can cross and come into something different that's not toxic, that's liberating, that's grounded in joy and abundance, and yeah, because that's what I think thresholds are speaking to me. I've definitely lived in a toxic relationship form of, denial and who I was, and now that I'm, working in a place where I'm learning to know myself a little more intimately every day, it's opening up those spaces where every moment might be a threshold.
Oh, and shout out to the breakout rooms. It's kind of ironic. It took isolation and quarantine of a global pandemic for me to get to know some fellow congregants, but it worked. It's nice. Blessed be.
We continue first with the words of Renee Deschard, who's currently the program chair at Prairie Unitarian Universalist Society. Renee has worked in pre-K through 12th grade public schools as a school librarian and has taught graduate courses to help teachers utilize technology. And then Jake Blazczek, longtime member of First Unitarian Society. Jake has served many roles here. Recently on our ministerial research task force, serving as a beloved conversations facilitator, and leading a 4-week meditation session with Jane Worrell when we moved our community online. We are grateful for the thoughts and reflections from Renee and Jake on thresholds.
So when I'm thinking of thresholds, I'm thinking about my children who are 1 and 3.5, and our youngest is almost out of the baby phase. That brings some sadness and some happiness as well. Hopefully not as many sleepless nights. And our older one will be going to kindergarten in a couple years, so that will be a new thing. So that's definitely something when I think about thresholds, is watching our 2 children as they get older. And then another thing regarding thresholds is with my work life, or lack thereof, or I guess maybe a different work life. I'm currently a stay-at-home parent, and I did used to work full-time, so I am taking a bit of a break, and then in a few years, I'm not sure if I'm going to be working outside of the home full-time or part-time, or continuing to be a stay-at-home parent. So that's kind of an in-between point right now. So when I think of thresholds, I think of that as well. So those are 2 things at this point in my life when I think of thresholds that I am thinking of.
Good morning. My name is Jake Blazczek. I would like to share with you a few of my thresholds and tell you about my current thoughts about thresholds. In July, I will be 76 years old. Looking back, my entire life seems like a series of thresholds, a constant flow of experiences rising and passing away according to causes and conditions. When I peer into this flow of experiences, 3 pop out as important thresholds. Let's go back to 1968. I'm 22 years old. The Vietnam War is raging and all men my age were subjected to the draft. My life is at a pivotal point. After completing a master's degree in political science at UW and teacher certification, I was hoping to teach social studies, preferably at a high school. Deferments were ending and I received my draft notification. As a backup plan, I had applied and was accepted in the Air Force as an intelligence officer. I decided to plead my case in front of a panel of men sitting on the Brown County Draft Board in Green Bay. One woman sat on the side taking notes as I entered the room. The men listened politely to me. After a short deliberation, they said, "Sorry, teacher deferments are ending." All of us were rising to leave when the woman who was silent before quietly said, "Yes, there is a special deferment we can consider." She gave some title that I can't remember any longer. The men sat down, words were exchanged, and I was granted the deferment. I had experienced a moment of grace that shaped the rest of my life. The next 2 involve Anne, my wife. Let's go to 1975. It's Christmas time. I came home from Oregon, where I was living. A friend arranged a blind date with Anne. Dressed in cowboy boots, green suede jeans, and puka shells around my neck, I rang the doorbell of her apartment and literally crossed the threshold that changed and shaped my life forever. Let's fast forward to 1979. Ann and I are living in Portland, Oregon. On May 25th, we were married in Oregon in front of a justice of the peace. My dear mother-in-law Ethel wanted a wedding reception and a ceremony with clergy officiating. We said, why not? We were into going with the flow. And we added, if you can find one. Ethel asked several clergy, including ex-priests. All said no. Her UU friend from California, Ruth, was visiting, and she said, let's go to the Brookfield UU Church and ask the minister. They did, and Reverend Robert Latham officiated at a July ceremony in my brother-in-law's backyard. He also attended the luncheon afterward. His acceptance, grace, and persona so impressed me, and it stayed with me. I crossed yet another threshold. After completing a PhD in education at Indiana, we moved to Andover, Massachusetts. Emily was born in 1984. We began attending a small UU fellowship in Andover, Massachusetts. Again, the grace and the acceptance of that moment stayed with us. And after returning to Madison in 1986, we began attending FUS and joined in 1990 and have been active members ever since. These are 3 of many thresholds in the constant stream of experiences which brings me to this moment in time. Now I'm exploring thresholds from the perspective of aging, mindfulness, and discernment. I'm asking myself 2 fundamental questions. First, with each passing moment, How can I be more aware of what's happening all around me and within me so I can skillfully access wisdom? The second question is, at this moment, what's arising and what's the next skillful action? It could be as simple as saying hello, beginning the complicated process of letting go, asking for forgiveness, or committing to social action. So as I age, crossing thresholds is more like a process of moment-to-moment discernment, grounded in mindfulness, wisdom, and compassion. Sometimes the process feels like watching still flowing waters. My mind is still and calm as I learn from the flow that is my life. Thank you for this opportunity to share with you.
Our deep gratitude to each of the participants that shared their reflection with us this morning. The offering may be understood as an opportunity to take our reflections, our faith, our beliefs, and turn them into transformative action in the world. We have 3 opportunities to do just that as part of our offering this morning. Each of our congregations has an outreach offering that we want to quickly let you know about. We have from James Reeb an offering going to benefit the Community Action Coalition. The youth group at James Reeb initiated a food drive back in March, and when it became impossible for that to be an in-person experience directly in the congregation, they requested that the Share the Plate go to Community Action Coalition, which provides food and clothing and housing support to low-income persons in the area, with those being especially needed now. From Prairie Congregation, we have Street Pulse that works with the local homeless population, providing jobs and offering them an opportunity to build skills that allow their lives to be transformed, as well as providing advocacy. And finally, from FUS, Outreach LGBT Community Center that continues to create affirming community and advocate for LGBTQ rights in an era of particular vulnerability, as it is possible for us to undermine hard-won benefits that have happened in the last years. We make it easy for you to give to each of those. You will notice that there is an offering page link and also an outreach offering link on the front page. This will bring you to the giving pages for each of the congregations. I invite you now to an opportunity to give gratefully and to hope for the greater good. An offering will now be received in love and hope.
Oh, take me to the land of passages, gliding on a distant sea. Set me down beside the sunset-shadowed sky to dwell where the eagles fly. Far away, I see the gleaming peaks, hovering high above the earth, silently in stately majesty. They will usher out the sunset fading north. Rank on rank, the somber cedar trees march away their endless mile, evergreen where sight has never seen. They will cover every inch and clothe sunset shadowed sky to dwell where the eagles fly. Scarlet flames the brilliant columbine, sapphire spears the lupine blue, buttercups and silver fairy drops weave a fragrant carpet glistening in the early morning dew. So take me to the land of passages, gliding on a distant sea. Set me down beside the sunset shadowed sky to dwell where the eagles fly.
As we move now towards the end of our service, I remind the members of the First Unitarian Society community that today we will not have a coffee hour. We will move into our parish meeting. I hope that you will join us there. May we rise now in all the ways that we do, and join our voices together in our closing hymn, I'm on my way.
I'm on my way to the freedom land. I'm on my way to the freedom land. I'm on my way to the freedom land. I'm on my way, great God, I'm on my way. I asked my sister, come and go with me. I asked my sister, come and go with me. I asked my sister, come and go with me. I'm on my way, great God, I'm on my way. I asked my brother, come and go with me. I asked my brother, come and go with me. I asked my brother, come and go with me. I'm on my way, great God, I'm on my way. If they say no, I'll go anyhow. 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 I'm on my way, great God, I'm on my way. I'm on my way and I won't turn back. I'm on my way, and I won't turn back. I'm on my way, and I won't turn back. I'm on my way, and I won't turn back. I'm on my way, great God, I'm on my way.
We close our service with these words from T.S. Eliot. What we call the beginning is often the end, and to make an end is to make a beginning. The end is where we start from. We shall not cease from exploration, and at the end of all our exploring, we will arrive where we started and know that place for the first time. We extinguish the flames of these chalices, but not the warmth of love, the light of hope, or the fire of commitment to creating the world of our imagining. These live and move within us until we gather together again. Blessed be, and amen.
I know a river flowing fast and clear, lined with trees of healing leaves, trout and salmon there. All along the shoreline, weeping willows blow, where prayers are heard and songs have words, my spirit longs to go. Sweat upon my forehead, dust upon my feet. I could never swim if it's only ankle deep. Cleanse me in that current, bathe me in that stream, wash me in that water till I'm pure and clean. All along that river, eastward in its course, swallows sweep and salmon leap, steady to its source. All along the shoreline, deer and beaver play, and gentle geese among the reeds await the close of day. Thirst is my companion, drought is my disease. I could never swim, the stream can barely touch my knees. Cleanse me in that current, bathe me in that stream, wash me in that water till I'm pure and clean. Though the river's deep, with frothy swells and swirls, every stone is like a throne set with gems and pearls. Tiny snow-white lilies scent the mild air, and apple trees and strawberries forever bloom and bear. Sorrow on my shoulder, blindness in my eye. I could never swim if it's only waist high. Wade a little deeper, farther from the shore.